This program is proudly sponsored by Datec Limited.
Good night, Papua New Guinea. I'm Malcolm Waira, and welcome to another episode of Infocus. Whilst the advancement in technology has been largely beneficial to the society, it has also been exploited for sinister purposes by individuals and organizations. This has highlighted the need for a more proactive approach in cybersecurity, especially in places like Papua New Guinea. Given the recent ransomware attack at the Internal Revenue Commission, as well as the proliferation of online trolls and cyberbullies, this is a very topical issue. Joining us to discuss this is Mr. Wesley Sua, President of the PG Cybersecurity Defense and Intelligence Association. Solomon, thank you for joining us.
Mr. Waira, thank you, and it's good to be back in the show. We did a couple last year and the year before, so it's good to be back in the show, and thank you for the opportunity.
Firstly, Solomon, can you clarify what a ransomware attack is?
Ransomware attack is it's a type of cyber attack that deals with cyber criminals offering a company or a government agency or a government department's files that would be sitting in servers, that would be sitting in network devices like switches, routers, all of that. So after that, so once they get all of that, they would lock the files, and then they would demand a ransom for the files to be unlocked. So it's like a cyber attack where the cyber criminals would come in, lock the files, and ask for a ransomware. So that's why it's called a ransomware. There's a ransom involved in that attack.
Now, Solomon, can you provide details on the recent ransomware attack on the Internal Revenue Commission and its impact on its network and email systems?
I come from a private company and the Cybersecurity Defense and Intelligence Association, so I wouldn't have the much of the internal network or what is happening within the Internal Revenue Commission. But at a broader or outside broader level, and from what information the Commissioner General of the Internal Revenue Commission put out to the media, what happened was that they may have, the cyber criminals may have found a weakness in the IRC infrastructure. So what they did is they would put a ransomware in and then try to lock some files. But the way they came back, like within 14 days or so, that tells us that they have some cyber mechanisms in place. So they may have stopped that attack, but what would have happened is that they would try to infiltrate the network by way of a malware or a ransomware. That's a program or that's a software or a virus that they normally send. So if somebody click that virus or do anything, then they would get all of the IRC system. So that is what basically they did. But from what information that is publicly available and from the statement that was released by the Commissioner General, it looks like there was an attempt made, but the severity may be not that because the fact that they came back and that managed to get back on foot in the 14 days or so is tells us that they may have tried, but they may have less impact on that one. So cyber criminals targeted our Internal Revenue Commission, but the damage that done could not be that massive as we were anticipating or others would be commenting. So there was a ransom attack attempt done, but probably with minimal damage to the systems.
Now, based on the ransomware attack, what are some key lessons that we can learn from this incident?
Thank you, Malcolm. That's a very critical aspect of what all the departmental heads and all the agency heads, all the leaders of our corporate organizations, and including banks and the country's critical infrastructure, they must take note of what happened at IRC. So from publicly information that is available from the news articles and that, Internal Revenue Commission did have a robust infrastructure in there. So from the post-Korea reports that I see, they did penetration testing in 2022, what they did is that actually they engaged a cybersecurity firm to look at what are the loopholes or the gaps that would allow cyber criminals to come in. So they identified those, and then they did some recommendations, and IRC followed through and action on those recommendations. So they would say that, oh, there's a service that is running, or there's a, let's say, a port that is open, and IRC need to close it. So these are the cybersecurity preventative measures that were recommended after that penetration testing. So once there is action, and when they put up a system in there, now we have a minimal impact on the attack. Just imagine if they don't use do that penetration testing in 2022, and they were leaving those vulnerabilities like that, then the impact of this attack would be very massive. But just that they did penetration testing, and then now the impact is minimal. So the lesson that we could learn from that is that you invest in IT. Invest in your networks, invest in your servers, don't run old servers. Invest in your the workforce, do cyber awareness, and make sure that you invest in defending your infrastructure. There is no cost saving in when it comes to ICT and cybersecurity. You invest and then you defend your. If IT manager or a director of IT or a departmental head that is in charge of IT, like now the government is calling them digital transformation officers or DTOs. If one is proposing for a cost saving within a government agency or department, that would be very dangerous. There is no cost saving on ICT. You spend money, but the return on your investment will be reflected on other areas. Like if you are a corporate company, then probably you may close more deals. You may have your systems running, so you may close more deals, and your profitability will be your return on investment for securing your infrastructure. And for government departments and agencies, the government allocate funds for the defense and for all the operational matters of our department. So you don't cut cost on that. You make sure that the funds for the IT infrastructure developments and IT infrastructure upgrades and all this must be released on time. And the Department of ICT shouldn't be struggling with these funds. That must be released on time, and then they will put up the defenses. If you don't, and if you fail to do that, then the impact of that is when there is actually a ransomware attack, the country shuts down, and the lessons that we've learned from other government agencies and departments when they went down and how the country came to a standstill and the economy stops and all these things. So no cost cutting in ICT. The Department of Treasury, Department of Finance, all must know that if there is a funding that needs to go to the Department of ICT to tighten up our security, that must be released on time. And that is very, very key. So the lessons that we learn from here, invest and defend your infrastructure.
From your assessment, how have you perceived the Internal Revenues Commission's response to this particular incident?
The way the Commissioner General respond to the public is basically following that prescribed steps. So what I'm thinking is that the advice that he's getting from is in order, because when you look at that post-Korea article, it says about they mitigate, they contain the attack, and then they make sure that they have the critical services up and running. So that is actually what you do in cyber attack. So the first thing is that you don't panic. So I commend the Commissioner General for that. You don't panic. You show the leadership, and you give confidence to your team and say that, even to the country, and say that, look, the things are in order and we are pursuing it. That's the first. So the cyber criminals, the first thing they want to deploy is panic. If they can cause panic and havoc among the leadership, then they know that they are successful. So what IRC did is it's in order. It update the stakeholders, the public, and the thing is that some of this information that IRC has and all this is confidential. They don't need to release everything and anything out, but whatever we needed to know and for public consumption, I think the Commissioner General did a good job there. So that is what you do. When you have attack, you contain it. And the interesting thing that he mentioned was he said that they kickstarted their disaster recovery plan. And that's very critical. You already have a plan there. So in the event that when the attack comes in, then you quickly you kickstart whatever you already have. So it's just like a fire drill, working within those high-rise buildings. There's always a fire drill that there's a master point, and then they would put on the false fire alarm. Everybody not coming through the stairs lift, but walk down the stairs, and then we'll outside, and there's a drill going on. In cyber tech, you also do what we call cyber drills. So sometimes you imagine that, and what is shut down, so how do you respond? But based on what IRC did, on average is about, this number is from the developing world, and that's interesting. In the developed world, the well-to-do, they have all the infrastructure, they have all the money, but when they respond, it normally takes months. That's from the available information. But for IRC to come back within 14 days is remarkable. I think that shows the resilience that Papua New Guinea is capable of. So I think I commend the IRC. They did a fantastic job, and the lessons from there, I think it can be learned from other agencies and government and even corporate PNG.
Drawing from this cyber tech, what recommendations do you have for the government agencies, financial institutions, and businesses as to how they can strengthen their cyber defense?
I run a cybersecurity company, and on our LinkedIn pages, in Post-Korea Online, in EMTV, Infocus, what we're saying is that the first line of defense is the human being. We can spend millions, and we can spend even millions of kina in defending our network, all that, but the person is always a weak link. So I'm talking about the person who works in accounts, the person who works on the reception, on the administration team, in sales and marketing. The cyber attacks won't target the IT people like myself. They know that we would maneuver and we would go around. So they'll always target the weakest link. And these are the guys that work within sales and marketing, or those that have no IT knowledge at all. So cyber education is number one. Every government agency, every organization in PNG must engage in cyber education. So like in August of last year, Department of Finance engaged us, Cybersecurity PNG. So we ran a 1 week. We don't want all the IT guys to come. We don't want all the technical guys to come. We collect all the non-technical team, and then we run the same sessions we run, like when to click an email, when not. So cyber education is key. Number two is you invest in your network infrastructure. You must have your routers and firewalls that it will cost some money, but you have to invest and make them. At the moment, like you get some of these routers that have the AI capability inside, so they can detect ransomware and malwares that are coming in, or any other virus for that matter. So you tighten your network defenses. And then within the infrastructure, we call layered defense. You don't put all the eggs in one basket. The cyber criminals come in, they'll do the damage. So you segregate the networks. Tell your IT, all the IT and network engineers must segregate the networks. They do what we call micro segmentation. So if they come through one network, they must not infiltrate another one. So that's the classical case in point when, let's say, Commissioner General of IRC, Sam Coim, says all our other networks are working, and there are certain that affected. What that tells us is that the IRC network is like segmented. So the criminals can come in one, but they cannot infiltrate the entire. So that is key. So invest in segmentation, invest in your workforce, and all the softwares you're using, like antivirus, Office, all of that. You don't look for crack ones. You always pay and use licensed ones, and those that have capabilities of protecting against malware, virus, and ransomware and all that. So invest in all this and make sure that you must have a secure and secure system that is cyber resilient. So in the event that attacks do come, then you can be able to withstand. So update, educate the workforce, have the right defenses in place, and segment the network, making sure that you have the right infrastructure and it is segmented, so when attacks come in and another one, then they don't infiltrate all the other networks.
Now, Solomon, I'd like to bring your attention to another similar matter, which is the ongoing instances and cases of cyberbullying or trolling online, especially by individuals who are using fake accounts. I think this has prompted the government to suggest regulating social media or banning social media. Is this technically possible for the government to track and identify the individuals using these fake accounts?
The issue of cyberbullying is a very that issue is not only faced in developing countries, that's also faced in the developed world as well. So the question about technically can we go after those people who are behind fake identities? Yes, technically it's possible, and the first crime that they commit is that it's identity fraud. They're using someone is trying to become another person and put something on. So how is that technically possible? The technicalities of this is like it is. When we say it's technical, it involves a lot of technology, a lot of effort behind that to go after that. But at the broader scale, we can go after them. This is a message to even if those who are creating fake accounts can know. When you create some account, you use a mobile phone number, and that number is issued by either Digicel, Telecom PNG, B-Mobile, or any other mobile service provider in the country. So when you sign up that, before you get your Facebook account verified, Facebook will send a message to your phone to get it. So that's the only one that we have. So once we see that your number ends with, let's say, number ends with 71, for instance, then that needs the efforts of law enforcement, cyber security experts like myself, and ISPs. So that three should come together and then they can track it down. Because what they would do is simply at a broader level, they will see what number it ends with. So if the number ends with 71, then go to the ISP, find out all who has all the numbers that end with 71, and then you contain them, and then you find out what were the activities in the last weeks within that period that issue came up. So then the logs, SMS messages coming in, so there'll definitely be a trail that says that, look, there's a message that received by this number from Facebook. So then we know that, why should you receive a number from Facebook? Probably you were creating a fake account number. So, and then when you register for a SIM card, like Digicel or any of our mobile service providers, they get your picture and they have your file in there. So law enforcement can go after that and then get it. So that involves law enforcement, that involves ISPs, and that involves the law enforcement has the investigative skills, ISPs provide the infrastructure, and we cyber experts will come in. We come in with the social engineering aspect of the whole thing. So when these three come together, that number should be tracked down, and then there's a big challenge at the moment. The government. One thing I see is the big challenge is when police officers want to investigate such, what they have to get what they call a search warrant. That may take a week, that may take some days, that may take 2 weeks. So in technology evidence, you don't wait for the 3 days or 1 week. So the government is trying to introduce this Domestic Terrorism Act. That gives the power to the police commissioner and the attorney general that they can give orders that a phone can be confiscated. So the Domestic Terrorism Act and the the Cybercrime Code Act, when they combine, then that would be, so the call on the government now is that they must pass this Domestic Terrorism Act. And that would help in the fight against this one, because then that will empower the police or the law enforcement agencies to work with the ISPs. So ISPs wouldn't be putting a defensive saying that we want to protect their customers' data. So at the moment, there's legislation is missing. But if they do pass the Domestic Terrorism Act for PNG, then that would empower the law enforcement agencies. So the departmental heads of the law enforcement agencies would give orders, or they would have the powers to, let's say, confiscate a mobile phone or a computer or search a house without going to the courts and search warrant and all this. That would cut down on that. So the challenge is huge. Technically it's possible, and we only need legal empowerment, and that's where the government of the day should quickly pass the Domestic Terrorism Act or any act or amendment to a legislation that would empower law enforcement not to wait for 2 or 3 weeks to get a search warrant to get a computer or mobile phone. By the time the search warrant comes out, the evidence is already overwritten. So that's the challenge law enforcement agencies have. So technically possible, law enforcement, ISP, and cyber criminals can work together, and then we can track down those people who are behind fake accounts and causing a lot of effort in the society these days. So Papua New Guinea have seen so many high-profile cases recently. So that is technically possible, yes, but it needs legislation and political will to come together, and then experts, legislation experts and ISPs. When they work together, they can track this down, because ISPs have the digital footprint of all the phone numbers.
Now, finally, from your perspective, how do you think the government can best protect freedom of expression on social media whilst preventing the prevalence of hate speech and discriminatory content?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's a challenge that all the governments face in the name of free speech and in the name of freedom of speech. And they do it, but the point that I, as a cybersecurity expert, come in is the morality and the ethics part of it. So if someone putting his or her own full name, details on Facebook, and then post something against the government or so, I wouldn't think there would be, like, there is like freedom of speech, anybody can. But the question is of the ethics side of it, where when you create a fake account, and the crime you commit there, firstly, is the identity fraud. And then you are hiding behind that, and in the name of freedom of speech, I think that's illegal, because a person who commits identity fraud cannot use that, whatever is created using, already committed an offense, and then using that to say that freedom of speech. You are it's like you are a not real person. You fought someone else, or you are a fake identity, and then fake identities, I don't think they have freedom of speech. Fake identities, they don't have freedom of speech. A real identity, authentic person, you will have your freedom of speech, that you can say something and you can say. But people are hiding behind fake IDs and try to freedom of speech. The ethical side of it is, I don't think fake people have freedom of speech.
Solomon Wesley Sua, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, and looking forward to another episode of and our continuous cyber education to the masses in PNG and people in our region. So again, thank you for the opportunity as always.
Well, viewers, that ends this episode of Infocus. Do join us again next week, Monday, on our regular time slot of 7 p.m. Till then, bye for now.
This program was proudly sponsored by Daytech Limited.